Good morning. All right, I think it's working. I'm here with you coming from my house in Long Beach. And here comes my friend Stacy. We're going to add her. She's watching. There's the little window.
Hello,
Stacy,
good
hello.
morning. Good morning.
Hi. All right, we'll deal with the little window.
Yeah,
But like I said, let's take turns being the little window.
yes, for sure. Little windows, big
Hi.
ideas, right? Hi. Can
Yes,
you hear me
yes.
okay?
We'll just, I can. Can you hear me okay?
I can, yeah. I'm going to
Okay.
jump on here and
I have to
share.
watch. Sometimes on these, I get like in this like broadcast voice, and then when I listen later, I'm like yelling at the camera. So like, no need to amplify my voice.
Yeah,
Good
I hear
morning,
you.
and I see
Uh-oh.
my
Ooh,
my
hold
friend
on.
Ryan is here.
Yay. Okay, I'm sharing your video here really quick. Hopefully
All
my
right.
internet is working okay.
Yes,
I'm not
because you
seeing
are
too.
in Vancouver somewhere,
I
right?
am. I am. I'm sharing your thing here. Hold on.
Okay. Share
Um,
my thing.
I'm gonna share your thing. Okay, I think I just shared it. I guess we'll find out.
We've been
Okay,
shared.
there we go. We've been shared. We are
Ah,
live. Hey, it's a
you're
play
looking great, by
date.
the way. I
Thank
love your
you. I just got out of
haircut.
the
It's so
shower.
cute.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah,
Natural curly. Yeah. It can be
looks
kind
like
of
a good
crazy up
cut,
here in the
though.
Pacific
Like,
Northwest. Yeah. Actually, I'm due for a cut, but it's,
really
yeah, the Pacific
crazy on
Northwest
your
is,
hair?
it's rainy up here. So to try and straighten it, forget it. Like it's a frisbee.
Mm.
So, yeah.
You have to embrace the frizz ball as part of that climate or work
Pretty
with it.
much. Yeah,
But
exactly.
I feel like I could love that because I don't, and I've grown up in Southern California, as you know, and I haven't left yet. But I love rain, and it really has because it's always just been a pleasure so far. But how do you feel about the experience of that much rain at this point, having been a Southern
Well,
California girl? Uh-huh.
yeah, yeah. So I grew up in Southern California, but I moved up here in 91 when I was 21. So now I'm giving away my age
Okay.
for those quick math geeks. And, sometimes I love it. It's that soothing, calming, presence that it can
Hmm.
usher in. But then about January, February, it's like you're over it and you're ready for
Yeah.
sunshine, which isn't for another 6 more months. So
Hmm.
it can get a little
Hmm.
tiring, but it's beautiful up
Yeah.
here. So you can't have one without the other. So it's a trade-off.
Uh-huh. Right. That's what makes it so green and vibrant and lush and such.
Yes.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes. It's beautiful. Best kept
Yeah.
secret. Well, maybe not so much of a secret, but yeah, it's gorgeous up here.
Mm. Yeah. I want to ask you a question about that, but I thought it'd be fun for a second to just share how I love our story, right? How you
Yeah.
and I are connected and have been connected and got to reconnect, right? So
Yeah.
just, I'll give myself permission to tell it for a moment, if you're okay with that. Just that I
Totally
love
okay.
that
Yeah.
you and I were childhood friends, right? Like at least in high school. I don't remember if we were around each other before that, but in
Mm-mm.
San Diego, right? We were in high school together, and Stacy and I were friends. We were in a lot of the same activities, right? Obviously, because we had the same interests. We were both in the dance
Yeah.
team, which was a big experience with a lot of like leadership opportunities. And we hung in similar circles, but it wasn't like you and I necessarily hung out outside of that, right?
Mm-mm.
But I remember always
Yeah.
liking you and feeling like you were my friend. But then right after graduation, we fell out of touch, and I met like even forgot about some people like you. So I remember when
Yeah.
our reunion started to pop up a couple years ago. When all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, Stacy Yardley! I forgot about Stacy Yardley, right? And so then you and I connecting, and me realizing, right, we're doing such similar work that you now are this
Yeah.
amazing coach, and that you work with women, and that you do a lot of spiritual even content, and that you also work with people and yourself have, you know, been in and out of chronic pain, which is something, right, that I too had been in. And so it's just so, I love how we realize we're like, we have these same interests, and now we're like totally sisters, like we always were, really, but making use of that. So here we are on our Facebook Live to share how fun it is when we get to talk, right?
Yeah, it is. It's so fun to me to see like the synchronicities of life and how things that we think can disappear or aren't important to us, right? Like you're saying, that we can just fall away and float away apart. And then life has a way of synchronically, I don't know how to say it. Just magically, right? Magically bringing us back together later down the road, right? And for purposes, you know, that are bigger than us. So it's exciting. It's exciting to see,
I love
and
that
to
too,
connect, and
that yeah, and we'd see that right away. And as we've been talking, like things we could love to create together, right, and do together. And so it's fun that we're both in that place of like, all right, this is obviously happening for a reason, even though it's just fun, right, to get to talk. But we know like something's happening here, and there's, you know, some contribution that could happen with our just getting to talk, for instance.
Totally. I think it's fun to like find your people, right? Like I think as we grow through life and we change and we go through different stages in our life, we can have our tribes or our people. And then, as you know, what I'm finding as I get older and into my transition to midlife and all of that, and my expansion of my own spirit and growth and everything, to find my people has been so critical. And I'm still in the process of even more like expansion, and then you level up and find those people, right? But it's fun when you see that your people used to be your people back then, and now they're still your people in different ways, right? So yeah, I think it's so important.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like more than ever I realize how important it is, like who I am spending time with. And is that a little animal?
Yes, it's my dog.
I'm like, yay!
Come here,
He
Maddie.
wants to come be in the live. The animals like to be. This happens often where they come in, and I'm like glad. So please.
Yeah, she doesn't.
He's like, I need to say something, or she.
She likes. She likes to be the center of attention. So
yes,
when she's not, she's
say.
very. Yeah, she's very
Bring
jealous. She'll come in here in a
right?
minute. Usually,
she's bringing in an energy, right, that like will only be awesome. And then people like looking at a dog, so right? It's like it adds to your.
There she is.
Not add her. Oh my God! Hello, baby.
Right?
What's her?
This
is
Maddie.
Maddie.
Yes.
Oh hell yeah, Maddie. Yes. Thank you, Maddie, for honoring us. With your presence. But oh yeah, just how important it is who we hang out with, right? And how much it does impact us. And like the positive side of that is how, when we hang out with people who it can feel so enriching and connecting, and it flows with ease, right? And then we are just like inspired by the people. It really does up level us a lot, right? I mean, and I found I've done that. Sometimes life just helps you do it, right? With people dropping away or whatever, things changing. But it's interesting with you and I having been childhood friends. Maybe if we had been in super close touch all those years, because also there's those people that you've been friends with since you were kids, and you almost needed to evolve away, you know, right? Or you don't happen to still have that connection at this time. That worked well for us.
Totally. So
it kind of that whole thing, like forcing yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, like, I was listening to a podcast this morning, which, you know, of course, we often do that as we're growing. And the concept in this podcast was talking about walking butterflies. And it really, you know, the butterfly analogy for me is huge because of the transformation of a butterfly. But what she was talking about was how often when we become a butterfly, that we don't necessarily own our wings and we don't necessarily fly. We kind of keep walking because that's what's comfortable, right? Like as a caterpillar, we were walkers. Yeah. And so I think like what you're saying, you know, we can sometimes like go through that transformation process and become that butterfly, but then all of our friends are still caterpillars, or they're still in the process of transformation and they're not in the same space. So we can hold ourselves back even sometimes, I think, wanting to hold on to friendships or relationships that were once magical and special for us and important for us in our caterpillar stages. But as we become butterflies, it's like a whole nother process, a whole nother life, right? And we can really just kind of feel stuck, I think, in that in between, and find ourselves walking as butterflies and not really fully. I mean, the whole analogy of the walking butterfly was huge for me. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that so much. That is so great. And because it feels like you can see why, yeah, because if you were hanging out with other butterflies, you'd get so much more comfortable using your wings, right? And it would, you could, and I love that the analogy of like you'd be like literally like taking flight versus being still
Yeah.
grounded, right?
Yeah.
And even that feeling, it's almost like you could feel it to feel it. It's just almost like a heaviness that a butterfly might feel if it now had these wings, but it only let itself walk. That's like almost that heaviness we sometimes might feel emotionally if we're just
Yeah.
still. And that's what I was going to say, which I'm glad that you said that first, because this is better to say after that. That it seems to go with when we're like forcing ourselves to hang out with people because we think we should, right? That seems to go
Mm-hmm.
with it because it seems like, yeah, because that indicates that maybe if we really just did intuitively what felt right, we wouldn't see that person, or even if we just let life kind of even direct us, right?
Yeah.
So when we force ourselves out of obligation, right, that's probably an indicator that it's one of those situations. And it doesn't mean like that they're not a butterfly too, right? It just means they're at a
Mm-hmm.
different stage of their process, which is cool. And that
Mm-hmm.
you can still love them in their caterpillarness. But yeah, how important it is to, and then I love that you were talking when you said about having these wings, that helped me already to feel like, yeah, I am feeling like I'm developing these like wings that are like wild and unique and colorful and like wow, you know, I have to adjust to like having these, right? And so it's nice to have other
Yeah.
people around you who are like owning their wings, right? And
Yeah,
flying.
totally. Yeah, it's like
Ah,
owning our power, right? And I think that even that process of like stepping into our power, like our wings, right? Like we can kind of think like, oh yeah, I have wings, but they're little wings or not so big wings, but they're actually huge, right? And so if we really flap them, so to speak, and take off, like what's going to happen? Like how high are we going to soar? And then how far can we fall, right? So that can kind of cause us to stay small and
ah,
playing small and not
wow.
really stretching into that biggerness of being different, right? And being new
Yes.
into who we are.
I love this analogy so much because yeah, I can feel that like fear of really spreading these wings now that I maybe feel
Mm-hmm.
like I have and then are developing and sharing them, right? And kind of that fear of
Yeah.
doing that. And then I love what you just brought in, how that does involve now this flight involves the potential to fall to potentially right in an analogy way, and how that explains why it can feel so scary, right? And why we might hold ourselves back from, you know, because we're like, oh, I want to fly but I don't want to fall, right? And
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
these great awesome wings, but it's kind of scary to share them because like what are the
Mm-hmm.
caterpillars going to think? Right, that's
Right.
always part of it
Right.
too.
Which I think is why it's so important to, again, like, and I was just talking about this the other day, but sharing our story, right? So like it's you and
Mm-hmm.
I talking, and the times that we talk and we have, our conversations around what we're going through. And I think just even when we hear other people share their stories publicly or even privately, it gives us permission to kind of be like, oh, like they're going through it too, but we see them maybe as a big butterfly. This happened to me recently where I went to a conference and saw these all these amazing, butterfly women just spreading their wings and sharing their voices and sharing their stories, and I was just like struck with this whole thing because I've been playing small for quite a while now. Like I have not been stepping into my full power, right? Even as a coach, even like doing what I do, there's still more,
Yeah,
and I can feel that, right? I think we can
right.
always feel when there's more for us. And so
Yeah.
there was a shift that happened for me when I saw some of these women that I really admire, sharing their stories, and I'm thinking, "Oh my God, they're just like me." Well, and instead of being like, "Well, it's for her and not for me," it's more, well, if she can do it, I can do it. So
Mm.
why not? Right. And so I think it's just super important for us to share our stories of being butterflies or even the growth process so that we can inspire others to know like we're not alone and it's all normal, and welcome to the butterfly club. Like spread your wings and fly, and Yeah, it's just super
I love
important.
that. Isn't that so beautiful how our stories can do that for each other?
Mm-hmm.
It's right. It's such a beautiful part of how we're connected. And have been really realizing, and I was just talking about this earlier with my friend. I was on Instagram live earlier this morning. I had that much live energy today. um, but that how much other people's stories always help ground me too,
Yeah.
in the awareness that first of all, we're all always going through something too, right? That we're all always have something, and that just helps
Mm-hmm.
me to remember and realize that we all always have something that we're dealing with today. Something in some part of life isn't great today, right? And there's something maybe that we could be worried about. And there's something that we're working, like, there's always gonna be something. And
Yeah.
just that awareness,
Yeah.
and that everybody else has got something today. And then the remembering that, like, there's a lot of people with a way worse something today, right? And that always helps me. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, like the health thing. I think you and I probably talked about this last time we talked too. That's when I often refer to, like, if I'm going through something, or when I'm going through something, right? Since we probably always are going through something. We should see that in a
Yeah.
better way. Like, we're going through it. Like, I've been saying that word, and I'm like, I'm going through something, but it actually is saying I'm going through it. It's not like I'm stuck
Yeah.
in it. Um, but that helps me
Right.
so much to just be like, oh yeah, but thankfully it's not a health thing, or that kind of. So yeah, I love how our stories can inspire each other and then free each other, right? And also, like,
Mm-hmm.
ground us so our own struggle can feel a little bit more doable, right? Like,
Yeah.
okay, at least I'm just dealing with this.
Yeah. And I
Mm.
think it helps remind us that, like, there's no there, right? Like, there's never, like, as soon
Mm.
as we're there, we're like, what is there? Like, we
Uh,
always want to get there, and we think, well, I'm not
yeah.
there yet. I'm not ready yet. I'm not, that's been a big thing for me. Like, I'm not ready yet because I have this and this and this. Like you're saying, like the daily
Mhm.
struggles or things that we're going through with life. And it can really make us feel defeated and make us feel like, well, I have this thing going on. So therefore, I have this tarnish mark, or I have this imperfection that is holding me back. And it's like, that's such a BS lie, because we're never going to be perfect, and we're never going to get there, because there is no there. The whole process of transformation and
Mm.
growth is the journey, right? It's the whole, like, the juice is in the journey. And when we get stuck on I need to be a certain place to do a certain thing, like, we just put ourselves
Mhm.
in this pit of, like, dirt that just, and we can just pile it on ourselves, right? And it just can feel so dark and isolating and crazy. So I think it's like you're saying, reminding ourselves
Gosh.
that we can do stuff even in the midst of the other junk that we're dealing with, right? That we can have light and dark at the same time. The
Yeah, and
shadows,
that maybe we're always gonna, right? And then yeah, I think, I'm sure you and I were talking about the shadow thing
mm-hmm.
last time we talked, and even just the awareness that is so new to me, that what makes it shadow is the judgment of it, right?
Yeah.
And even bringing it out. And that's what's so beautiful about, like, the sharing of the stories too, that you were talking about, is that's a chance for us to kind of reveal our shadow, bring it out of the shadows, right? Like, literally by sharing it and bringing it into the light, in a sense. And how that can be so healing, I guess, that word.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, there's really no dark, there's no light without dark, right? Or dark without light. I mean, they have
Mm.
to, one can't exist without the other, because that's just how it works, right? And so inside of us, we have both. We have the light and the dark. But I think our world and our culture and everything, we tend to focus a lot on the darkness, or we feel the darkness, right? So deeply and
Mm.
so constricting, and it can really be intense. And we forget the power of our light, and we forget the power that light has over the darkness. That even though the darkness exists, the light actually has more power and authority and divinity, within it, to just not really erase it, but just transmute it, I guess, right? Or dissolve it, in a sense of, like,
Um,
I guess more transmute it, right? To shift it into glory. So, like, we might have a shadow side, a dark side, but that shadow, like, I'll just give you a personal example. Like, I'll go, like, real authentic here, like total vulnerability.
Thank
Why
you.
not? Let's play
Please.
full out.
Yeah.
So, for me, my story is self-love. Like, one area for me that has been super shameful is just my past, right? Around going places with men and going into relationships and doing things that I was looking for love in all the wrong places. And so that created for me a deep place of shame and unworthiness, right? And feeling like I wasn't good enough or whatever. But though that actually led to eventually my process of stepping into self-love and stepping into my transformation, where now I'm stepping more and more and more into that process so that I can help others do the same, right? And so without that darkness that I experienced, or that shadow side within me of not being worthy, of all the woundedness I went through as a child, like being abused by my father, feeling neglected, just all of the unworthiness, it can really like take its toll. But at the same time, it doesn't have to stay that way, right? Our shadows don't have to stay hidden from us. And I think going into that place of healing and going into that place of understanding our darkness and why we did the things we did or do the things we do in our humanity, right? That we can then transform and grow and then be even bigger and more powerful in our light because we had the experience of being in the dark, right? For others.
Woo!
So
That's so good.
yeah.
That's so good.
I don't know if that made any sense.
And I think, and I love that my friend Stephanie is here, who I'm doing my retreat with, who I love. I was telling you about Stephanie last time you and I talked.
Yeah.
Just bringing in like the magical possibilities of what we're doing with our awareness, even, right? With some of these things. And this idea that totally, I realized talking to Stephanie last week, and then it's been threading its way through my conversations, and here it is now. And it goes with what you were saying about the sharing of our stories and how that can be this like, how part of like through expression of any form, through like creative expression of our pain even, right? It's a chance to like free up ourselves and the fact that we've been so conditioned to not be our authentic selves, right? And just the role that turning it into a creation and a sharing, whether it's with your clients like you might, or through videos or through books or through a poem or through a painting or through, like I was talking to my friend this morning, Chris, who's a playwright among many things, and he's like written a play about manic depressive disorder and suicide because that's what he has gone through. And so it's like to realize how when we turn the power of the expression, right, how that heals our trauma and frees us up and then does that for other people, right? It's like so exciting to really, and even just doing that in a journal or doing that with like vision, any kind of creative anything, to realize you're getting a chance to just do that, and the more you do that, you're freeing it up, and then how it's impacting other people's experience, right? It's so cool. It's such a great part of being human, right? That we're so connected and we can affect each other like that. And more of that, please, right?
Right. Yeah. And it's funny because we totally want to like negate or bypass pain and sorrow and like all the hard stuff. We want to not deal with it. We want to not see it. We want to deny it. But yet, as you're saying, like it's so critical, like in the creative process, it's so critical in connection, right? Because when we do share, we feel more connected to each other. And that's really what it's about, and being connected to our source, right? And so I think a lot of times pain and sorrow and the darkness can drive us closer to our source, whether that be God, source energy, Mother Earth, right? However, right? Yeah, always. It's like it can drive you there, or it doesn't, and then you just feel just horrible. But it definitely can be a gateway into the healing, like you were saying, right? And drawing closer to that source, and then, like we're saying, like transmute or transforming it for the sake of others to do the same. I really see it in music a lot, right? We hear it in music. My daughter is a singer-songwriter, and she has made some incredible music and songs. She's only 17, right? But she's done it through her own heart and her own experiences. And I'm like, oh my God, that like she's made me cry. Like, oh my God, you totally like, that was my song. Like you totally nailed it. but it was about her experience, but yet it was so relatable to me. And I think like what you're saying, like through music, through plays, through writing, we relate, we connect, and then we see the possibility, right, of what's possible, because we see that other person. They're not there, maybe. They're not there, we think, but they're further ahead of us, right? And so we can see, okay, if they've done it, I can do it. If they can experience, I can experience this. And that's the whole point, isn't it? For us to just be co-living, I think, as humanity in unity and peace and love and joy and like all those great things. But it doesn't mean the darkness doesn't exist too. It just is healed and transformed.
But
So.
I do love, I can feel right now that awareness that our darkness is what's driving our creations even, right? And like it is such that shamanic thing too, that like when we're healing something, then we go on to like share it with others, right? That maybe we're all in that experience in life, that like we're going through things that become an opportunity to create something from that, right? In whatever way, you know, whether it's even just creating something in a relationship. And then I'm so fascinated with how much actually creating the things, whatever they are, whether they feel like art or not, is part of then how we feel. Like once we start to get these things coming through us, we were probably talking about this last time too, because I'm so into this and I know you are, like our creative process, right? And so once we do have like my friend Chris, who's written a play and is expanding it, once that started to come through him, if he like didn't let himself write that play, like how much does that play a role in our like mental health stuff and our mood stuff? And our health stuff. I'm very curious about that connection, you know, like how
I
much
think
is
you're
it
dead
all
on.
about creative flow, right?
I definitely
And that
think
how
you're
it's all
dead
about
on.
our connection with our source or spirit too. It's all very Julia Cameron, right? Have you read The Artist's Way or done some Julia Cameron along the way?
Yeah. The artist.
So it's that, I think,
I
idea too, that if we see that our creativity is our connection to God or source or spirit or the universe, that can be so cool. And I love to keep re-embracing that, because I really like to remember that, right? But yeah, that then too, if it's coming through and we're not expressing it, it starts to create this, like, it's almost like what Jesus said, right? Like if we don't bring forth that which is within us, that will destroy us or something. Did he say something like that? I know you have a Christian background, which I think I love when you talk, because I feel like you could be like a minister, because you have your spirituality, like you have a great way of expressing it. And I know that you came from a Christian upbringing, right? And then got even more just universal with your beliefs.
Oh, you're going there.
I'm like, oh, and I'm basically, I'm like, you want to talk about your religious background?
Oh my God.
Talk about what you
So,
which my friend Stephanie is similar.
This is an area
story. So yeah.
This is an area for me that is very, very scary to come out and really show up fully in myself, because I haven't really been out there with it, right? And I know that oh man, I'm just getting all kinds of like, you just opened a can of worms, girl.
I'm like,
so
sorry, not sorry. No, but of course, only talk about what you're comfortable talking about. I had some moments like that in the last 24 hours too, with some broadcasting about personal stuff. So yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
So just a nutshell of my upbringing. My mom was a Lutheran, and this is when I was a child. My mom was Lutheran, and this is before my parents divorced. My dad was actually into satanic worship. And so in my household, there was a lot of different. And they were married.
Practicing those things. Wow.
Yeah. And so here my brother and I are in this household of complete opposite, right? Like completely different belief systems. My dad was an atheist, declared, and which is funny because he's an atheist, but he declared that he was into satanic worship. So I'm like, how is that possible? Like you can believe in one and not the other? Like what? So growing up, I went to church with my mom, like a really strict Lutheran church, right? And I just looked forward to the donuts and the punch afterwards. Like I was just like, just get me to the red punch and the sugar. And then like my parents got divorced and that kind of fell away. And so I was kind of in that place of seeking and understanding and like looking in all areas and directions. And through my youth, my younger years, and then my teenage years and my 20s, I had my daughter. And as I went into motherhood with my daughter, I was living in a very small community in wine country in Oregon. And I had a wonderful neighbor who introduced me to the Friends Church and Newberg's Friends Church. And so I went to Newberg Friends, and they have a thing called open worship. And that is where they basically sit in quiet and listen for the Holy Spirit to speak. And sometimes a person will speak out loud, and then there will be a translator, maybe if they're speaking in tongues, or just the Holy Spirit just moves. And so it was in that time period in my life, in my early 30s, that I came back to Christianity and really got connected to God, and really got this like deep understanding of the relationship with our Creator. And that's when I started moving in my spirituality more, and really understanding that my own connection and the divine downloads that I would get, and like the understandings that I would have that were like, how do I know this? And just like powerful stuff, right? Then I got religious. And that's when things got a little bit more cloudy for me, in the sense of, well, not really cloudy, but more like restrictive, kind of, in a way. And the religiosity of the practice, and like the rules, and following it, and being good, and like really diving in and digging into scripture, and like, and just consuming it because it was exciting to me, right? But then I found myself in this really strict place of judgment, and really just a lot of judgment. Anyway, so then fast forward, I end up going through my first divorce during a time when I was deep in the church and teaching Bible study and leading women's retreats and doing all this amazing work. You know, and then like, this is when it gets interesting. So through my divorce, then I got remarried. Like, I had my first divorce, I rebounded, left that relationship, and then met a man and remarried within a year. And it was in that marriage that I really had an eye-opening experience with Christianity, and the judgment and the condemnation that comes along with it. And like, because it was a kind of an abusive relationship. And so, not kind of, like, you can't be kind of it either is or isn't, but there was abuse and things. And the church is not equipped for that. Like, the church does not deal with abuse very well, in my opinion. Totally my opinion. And so I was just like, whoa, like, what's happening here? And then I went through coach training. And when I went through coach training, my world opened up, and I was like, whoa, okay, hold on a second. Like, I have a lot of judgment. I have so much judgment towards people, and it was all based around my belief system. And so that's when I feel like, stepped into my true spiritual self, of understanding that spirituality and our connection to oneness and God as I see it, universe, source, energy, all of that, to me, it's all one. To me, Christianity, Muslim, Buddhism, Hinduism, all of that. Now, people are, I'm sure this is going to open a can of worms for some people. I might get a lot of judgment. It is what it is. But I do believe in love. Like, I just believe that love is our source energy, and that is where we come from. That is where we'll return to. That is who we are in our deepest core. And it's when we go, now there's different avenues, right? And there's different ways of getting there, of belief systems, of understandings, but really they all dial into the same place. And it's when we get so stuck on our religions that then the world becomes an angry fighting place, which is what we see in our world, right? And it becomes the opposite. So however you want to look at that, like, if it's the devil, or if it's this or whatever, it's the ego, it's whatever, however you want to look at it, I think it all comes down to the same thing, and that there is good, there is bad, there is light, there is dark, but ultimately it all comes down to love, and it's where we come from, and it's who we are. So there you have it.
That was powerful, and I'm sure it would be so helpful to so many people. And I could totally feel it in my body. I still can, just hearing that story. But I feel like clicking moment to me, because really what I can feel talking to you is your connection. Like I can feel how strong you are in your connection. Like by the way you talk about it, you're like, which it feels so good too. It feels so, and it feels so like solid and real that it's just like,
Yeah.
it's great. And it really like grounds me in that more. I love that. But I love that your clarity, and I think a lot of us can learn from this, is how much really learning to like deal with the judgment was what opened the door for you to really just feel that
Yeah.
connection more than ever, right? Like to peel
Yeah.
away the judgment, and how it was even visiting the judgment so strongly that got you to realize that.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the fucking trippy thing. I was remembering that last week you were coaching, you were just saying the perfect things to me about judgment. So I'm like, and here she is now, this like amazing teacher, right? Like you really, because you're so, but it's because you went through it. So that's a different example of what we were just talking
Right.
about, right? Like,
Right.
because you visited and even got to practice judgment so much. And even I think that's some interesting clarity for some of us, that maybe that's something potentially that a religious approach could potentially bring in, is some more
Exactly.
judgment, which
Right.
doesn't seem to help. But yeah, but the fact that you, yeah, visited it even more strongly and then freed yourself of it. And then that's been part of your like clicking into connection. And then, oh yeah, I'm just going to say, actually, you are a minister. I'm not going to say you could be, you are. Yeah, I mean, you are. I
No.
mean, right? Because when you look up that word minister, it means someone who's delivering the truth. Like, so whether or not you put that on your business card, I'm just going to say that you are. Yeah, and there was one more piece in there. I don't know if I'll remember it, but wow, thank you. That was
Well, and let
amazing to
me
hear.
touch on something too that you said, because I really want to make that clear too, is that, yeah, when I say about the Christianity and the judgment, I'm not saying all Christians or Christianity in
Yes,
itself is
yes,
judgmental.
I figured, but
I'm just saying that
thank
there's
you
a
for bringing that
slippery
up. I
slope
agree.
there, right? There's a slippery
Yeah,
slope in
it's a
any,
potential.
well, in anything,
Hmm.
right? Like you can take it out of religion in the sense of spirituality and put it in food. Like people can get crazy judgmental about their spirituality around food and their religion around
Hmm.
food. Like like gluten, right? Like I don't eat gluten,
Hmm.
but people can get really, or drinking, right? It can be anything where you become so judgmental because for you, you're so convicted in it, but yet you think everybody should be the same, have the same conviction that you have,
Hmm.
and everyone should be like in agreement with you. And if they're not, they're wrong and they're going to hell. And it's like, that's a dangerous, dangerous place to be. Um, Only because like how is that causing you to live for yourself, right? Are you, because we do have dark in us. And so if we're in that shadow side and we're acting out of the shadow self, and something happens and we're like, okay, now I'm a horrible person and I'm condemned because I ate a piece of pizza. Now what? Like it's all out the window, right? Like, I mean, it's just
Hmm.
kind of weird to put it in the sense of food, but
Yes.
it's really like we
Hmm.
have to really be
Hmm.
careful of our places of judgment and the way that we think right and wrong, black and white, because it really can put us in a place of bondage, really, and
Right.
fear and anxiety and all kinds of things.
Right. And I think this goes so perfectly too with the conversation on creative process, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing that is creating the resistance always, right? Or the thing that's ever keeping us from doing our thing is judgment, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
it's perfectly related to that. And then as you were saying that too, I was feeling like, and the judgment that we'll do with ourselves is probably the darkest place
Mm-hmm.
for most of us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah,
me too. And it's like scary what I think a lot of us are doing to ourselves on the inside.
it
Like I get
is.
that
It
feeling because I'll
is.
see what I'm doing. And I was raised in a nice, happy family and not abused and things. And then I'll see what I'm doing on the inside. And I'm like, oh my God, we're all being total assholes to ourselves.
Oh yeah. Oh
it's
yeah.
not it's not cute, right? And then when we know from people like Louise Hay, oh, I see my friend Roberto here, um, that we realize how that is on things like our health, right? When we're
Mm-hmm.
being an asshole to ourselves in our head, with our self-talk, with our judgment, right? Whether it's about a piece of
Totally.
pizza, like you said, which I'm glad we say pizza because Roberto's a good pizza lover. But yeah, man, No joke.
Totally.
And
Yeah. And
it
you know,
stops
that's,
us and it kills us,
it
that
does.
judgment.
Yeah. And I talk about that a lot around my psoriasis. Well, I don't say my psoriasis, the psoriasis that afflicts me currently at the moment.
Mm.
But when I was diagnosed with it, like, I don't know, what is this, 2019? So 3-4 years ago, I was diagnosed with it. Well, the thing about psoriasis is it shows up on your skin. And for so
Yeah.
long, I was not okay in my own skin. And I hated myself and hated my
Mm.
body and, so much like judgment against myself. And the way that I see it is that eventually like my body took over and said, okay, like you're done. We got this. Like because your body does follow your mind, right? And your thoughts. And so the body took over the attack and just started in the form of an autoimmune and started attacking me
Right. Right.
in and of
Yeah.
itself. Right. And so,
Isn't it
but the
so
beautiful thing
wild
about that,
how literal it can be? Yeah.
yes, but the beautiful thing about that is the reverse is true as well. Right. And so if our thoughts can make us
Exactly.
sick, they can also make us well. So that's where I'm at now
Mm.
currently, and changing my wording, my beliefs, and all of that around that for healing. It's
I
amazing,
feel like
isn't
we
it?
just channeled some Louise Hay just came in right there, right?
Yeah.
And Wayne Dyer right now would be proud, right? He'd
Yeah.
be like, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
They're like
yeah.
high-fiving each other right now.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. But it's serious.
Totally.
Like
So
I felt
much.
like yesterday I was thinking about making a video about, because I feel like we're in this awareness too, a lot of us practitioners, about the nervous system these days, like, so how many of us are just
Mm-hmm.
like, our nervous systems have just gotten so wired to this like chronic stress. It's like psychotic, right? And like
Yes.
people talking about how we need to like rewire the nervous system. And I think that's what a lot of things do, like the EFT, right? Things like that are
Mm-hmm.
said to like be helping.
Yep.
And I was just feeling like, God, yeah, because the way that a lot of us are operating right now, it's got our nervous system in this state that it's like killing us, like
Yeah.
it's so clear to me now, even though I'm still getting a lot better at it, embodying it, because I'll see it in myself too, like the way I'll be holding my body and just be like, I'm holding my body as if I'm in the middle of like war. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, there's no need to be doing that right now. Right?
Yeah.
So again,
Totally.
I can be like, if I'm doing that, and then we now know like that's not cool on the organs, it's not great for
No, it's not.
immunity. It's
No.
what weakens us. It's probably the cause of a lot of our cancers, like, it's like, it's no joke, right? And then yeah,
It
the
is
fact when
no
we're saying,
joke.
my awareness over the years that my mantra had become, what the fuck is wrong with me? I kind of realized I was saying that
Mm.
in my head, and it's like, and then like, as a person who's so trained in the mind, whatever we ask, is going to get the mind
Yeah,
to
it's
answer
going to
that
show you
question. Like, really?
everything.
You want us to
Yeah.
go there? You think
Yep.
you're like doing something, okay, I'm going to get down to it. What the fuck is wrong with me? Let's fix it. But instead you're like,
Yep.
speaking of mental health and mood, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So have you switched
Oh
that
yeah, that's
mantra
I'm
around?
good friend. Yeah, well, yeah, I definitely am getting a lot better at it. And I love when I get practice from people like Matt Kahn. You know Matt Kahn too,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Who like
Yep.
gets you to actually say I love you to yourself, and you feel like the biggest dork, right? But or even like putting your hand on your heart and just really changing
Mm-hmm.
that self-talk. When I start to do that, it's like, oh wow. And speaking of like supporting ourselves as butterflies, like I can start to see, oh, I would be like a whole nother better version of me if I was like doing that more often, right?
Yeah.
Like, I love you, LJ. You're doing great. Like I can do it for a couple minutes.
Right.
Right. It's a practice. Yeah.
Yeah.
What
It
about
can
you?
feel really
What are you
awkward.
finding
It
in
can
that?
feel well, yeah, I'm finding more and more the more that I decide, like I would say like only recently, like in the last month, like what are we in October now? So yeah, about month, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
About 6 weeks ago, I had like, I don't even know what it was around, like how I had the epiphany, but it was like around self-worth. And I finally
Mm,
said, okay, you know what? Like, I need to decide, like, am I worthy or am I not? Like, that's the bottom line. Like, do I feel
yeah.
worthy of having the life that I truly, truly desire? Now, of course, I've asked myself these questions in the past, and it's like, well, yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. But there was that core, like, do you really believe it? Or are you just saying that
Yeah.
you believe it? And so it really was a decision. And I think that's so important for us to remember, is that it comes down to deciding, like, enough is enough is enough. I'm going to decide right now that, yes, I am worth it. I'm going to start telling myself I'm worth it. I'm going to come into agreement with the universe, God, right? Or whatever, that source energy, that I am worth it. And because of who we are, right? And things have
That
started to
is the thing,
shift.
right?
And so telling myself I'm worthy of it, I'm worth it, I'm worthy of it, I'm worthy, like just monitoring that through, right? And understanding that, deciding that, yes, I get to decide what I am worthy of, it changes everything. And so things have started opening up, right? Like immediately. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Like immediately, as
Yeah.
soon as I said
Yeah.
I'm worthy, like I really decided in my heart, okay, I'm going to agree that I really am worthy. I don't know what this looks like completely, but I'm going to step into it. Stuff
Yeah.
started like clicking and shifting and
Yeah.
like happening. I was like, ooh, okay,
I
let's go into
absolutely
this a little bit
believe
more.
you. I believe you because you and I both are so aware of energy and law of attraction, right? And in
Yeah.
vibration. And that's what's so cool too, is that's why it instantly can shift things. I totally have seen that myself, even just in this last week, with things shifting immediately, as even as soon as I start to shift that like kind of awareness of my worthiness. Yeah, that for sure. But I'm going to ask myself that more, to be just like, do I really think I'm worth the life that I think that I want? And I love that you already mentioned too that the spiritual reasoning behind it is the best part, right? To say yes, because if I'm a child of God, or this project coming through me is like a piece of the universe trying to express itself, that's where if we can like embrace it as that, it makes it easier to say I'm worthy because of that, and my project is worthy because it's God's work, or whatever we call it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever it is. That
Yeah.
I love.
It comes down to your belief, right? Your belief system. And
Mm-hmm.
when we're not checking our beliefs, like we can run on autopilot, even in the sense of unworthiness. Like if your belief system is coming from, you are not worthy, therefore you need this religion to make you worthy, or you need this diet to make you worthy, or you need
Right.
this
Ah.
learning, this degree to make you worthy. If you need something outside of yourself to make you worthy, then are you really worthy? Even when you get that? Because the true core of who you are declares that you're worthy. Like who we are in our deepest being, like when we leave this body, this physical world, this body, where do we go? We don't disappear like we do physically, but our soul, our spirit goes somewhere, has to, like, it's light, it's love, right? So that in of itself makes us worthy, because that is in us. That's a part of who we are. It's the essence of who we are,
Mm.
right?
Right.
And so if we step into that and we like just lean back into that knowledge and be like, okay, if that little teeny tiny part of me that I don't really have a whole connection with right now because I'm so new to it, or the understanding of it, or maybe I don't really know what that looks like. But if I, this teeny tiny little thing, like think of it as an ant, right? If you're this big forest of your world and you're like this little ant of worthiness is running around, and you say, okay, I'm going to believe that little ant. It makes me worth, like, I believe that little teeny tiny thing is worthy
Mm.
enough for me to declare my worthiness. Then it's like, it like, once you give it that attention, it like
Right.
ignites and just pushes everything up. You know, and it's just, I don't know. It just feels to me like there's more here for me on that. But I just feel like when we
Mm-hmm.
decide, we cut off the rest of it. That's what
Mm.
decide means, is to cut off. And so
That's
that's
right.
the root
Yeah.
word of decide, is to cut off. And so when we decide and we say, this is who
Mm.
I am, or this is what I'm about, this is what I declare for myself, then we do actually cut off the unworthiness until we
Wow.
decide to pick it back up, right? Until we decide to be like, okay, yeah, no, I'm not worthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until we decide
And
again. But
owning it
again,
all,
just,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, and owning
And
it all is a
sometimes
decision, right?
deciding, yeah.
Even the decision to
Yeah.
pick it up again.
Yeah, like
Um,
deciding can be like a daily, like I'm deciding today, like again, I decide, I choose to commit again to my worthiness. I
Mm-hmm.
choose to commit again to what I'm about and what this is for. Yeah.
Right? Like a moment to moment thing
Yeah.
too, right? To like
Yeah.
keep deciding how, yeah, how we
I don't
want to
know though.
be
Like
embodying the
I feel like
moment.
deciding, I feel like when I've made decisions, I don't know about you, but I feel like when I've actually said, okay, yep, there's no turning
Uh-huh.
back. Like when because there's been decisions where I'm like, yeah, I decide. And I guess those are the decisions that like, feels like that to be daily. But when the actual decision is made, like I am deciding
Hmm.
that this is it,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's no changing it, right? There's
Yeah.
no like,
Yep.
no, I already
Yep.
decided.
Yep. I think that's a strong approach. And I was just watching Gary Vee talking about that, about, the power of just making, well, a lot of people talk about the power of making quick decisions, and then not
Yeah.
changing it back quickly. Um, is a good leadership quality, right? But it makes sense just energetically that you're just deciding, like
Yeah.
the way that you did the analogy with like just the little ant, right? And how it's cutting off that's just helped me even get that even more. So yeah,
But you know what I mean? Like
I'm
it's like that
excited to
whole, like,
see.
so think of it as a situation right now, right? That you actually decided
Hmm.
this is what I'm doing. Like it could be even as much
Yeah.
as like having a baby, right? Like who's ever ready to have a baby?
Yeah.
I've never met
Right.
anybody who's ever ready 100% to be a parent for the first
Yeah.
time, right? So like, but you decide there's no going back in that sense, right? Like it's there,
Yeah.
it's happening. You can't
Hmm.
change your mind.
Right.
Or
It's
anything else that
happening.
you've actually decided that you know that you know that you know
Um,
that it was going to happen, and it was a
hmm.
decision was made, right? What would
Hmm.
happen if you made that decision around your self-worth? Like there's no going back.
Yeah.
If you
Right.
actually
Ooh,
decided, I really am worth it.
yes. I make that decision about my self-worth right now. Right? Or we can like think about our friend.
Yes.
You and I both love Florence, right? Florence Scovel Shinn, who
Mm.
is so into the
Mm-hmm.
affirmations and the power of our words as magic, right? And
Yeah.
so, yeah, speaking of our words, to say it out loud, I've been doing even more of that lately, just because, which I'm sure you're so aware of because you've been also using prayer so much. I know, I imagine over the years. So, it's, yeah, exciting. I decide now, and you're absolutely right that is such a foundational change for all of us to do. Yeah. So thank you. I'm letting
Yeah.
that sink into my body. I can feel
I
like I'm
can
like
feel that. I can feel
relaxing into
that.
that.
Yeah. I can feel it in your heart center. I can feel it just like a locking in.
And
Yeah. Like a
anchoring,
just
right?
a,
'Cause
mm-hmm.
can you tell us more about the whole anchoring idea? Because I know in the life coach world, I've learned through friends like you that there's this thing called anchoring that we're aware of, that once you maybe have this realization or awareness or breakthrough or something, that you can do something to anchor it. Is that
Yeah.
something you'd be comfortable sharing what you
Yeah, like
feel about that?
what I'll do is I'll work with clients like around mantras, right? Like what you're saying, like what's a mantra or
Oh, it could
what's
be an anchor,
an
right? That would be an
anchor.
example of an
Yeah,
anchor, right?
that would be an example of an anchor. So I think it's important to like embody that anchor, right? And to really get into that feeling of what it feels like to anchor it into your body. Because our body, our mind and our body work together, right? Much like you were saying around, you can feel like your body you have no control over your body, like the anxiety and the different things that happen come as a result of our mind, right? So sometimes it's a matter of
Mhm.
controlling the body with the mind, but then controlling the mind with the body. So it can become, Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot, the mind
Mhm.
body, right? Like you
Mm.
can have a thought, it goes into the
Yeah.
mind or goes into the body then responds with a chemical reaction. It just kind of continues and goes and goes and
Mhm.
goes. So anchoring into that new belief system or that new feeling, like what does that feel like in your body to feel that new feeling of worthiness,
Right.
right? And
Okay.
just really set into that feeling of worthiness. When you hear yourself say, I am worthy, and where do you feel it in your
Mhm.
body? And what does it feel like? And really like sit with that. Let it
Mhm.
dispense all over your entire body. Allow it to take hold, right? As though you're planting a new plant. you're taking a new planter and you're putting it back into this other soil, and it's a new root that's going to come in and it's going to form, right? So that new root now is in a new soil, and you want it to come down and anchor in into your being. And so rooting in, grabbing a hold, feeling that energy and allowing it to dispense, and then just remembering this feeling, right? And going back into that feeling again and again and again and again, like through daily meditation, or maybe just driving in a traffic light. Oh yeah, what's that feeling of worthiness feel like again? And then just going into that place, not in your head. You can't get there from your head. You got to go into your heart and into your body, right? So anchoring into the heart, anchoring that into your heart space, because that's where it's going to, that's where the power is.
Okay.
This
That's
is where our
clarity, that
power
it's
comes
about
from.
anchoring it into your heart and your body and embodiment more. So anything you can do to do that, right? Which can be like your affirmation or your visualization. That was like kind of like visualization you just led me through, which totally helped and bringing me into my body. And then could we also do something like turn on a song and decide that that song, anytime I play it, is like it anchors it or something like that. Okay.
Totally.
Yeah, that's
and then
so
you can
cool.
take
Thank
it
you
one
so
more
much.
step.
That was really cool.
Yeah, and then you can take it one more step and be like, okay, now as this new embodiment, who would I be? How would I act? How would I move? How would I respond? How would I think from this place of my heart space, knowing that I'm worthy? How would I think about the situation? Versus my head, my ego, mind wants to tell me all these other things because it's just trying to keep me safe. It's going to speak through fear, through angst, through anxiety, because it's trying to keep me safe, right? And so a lot of times we listen to the head and we're like, okay, yeah, and we overthink everything. But when we, like, that 12-inch drop it's a big drop, right? But drop into that heart space, and then how would I be from this new space? How would I be from a place of worthiness? Right? And don't allow the head to come in and tell you that you're not. It's just like, let the heart speak. Let the heart move you. Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It's
Fun,
so
huh?
good. Thank you for being willing. You're like sharing some of your genius, but I mean, it's neat for us to see like some of what you do with your clients and groups. So, wow.
Well, thank you.
Woo, I'm transformed, and I imagine anyone who might have been there with us for that is too. That, woo, oh my gosh, that was such a great conversation. Holy shit! I'm figuring it's probably been at least an hour. I have no idea, but
oh, you're right. We're right on the hour.
Okay.
Spot on.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. Good deal.
Oh
well, thank you
but
for
isn't it
allowing
good to
this.
not have a plan too, right? Look at
It
all
is,
that
right?
that
That's
amazing
part of
content
that's
that just
part of
came
our
through.
fun living, right? In that whole space of divinity and spirit and source, and allowing that to come through in us, and just being like, okay, I'll play. Let's play for an hour and see what happens. You never know.
And okay, and I'm gonna throw one more label at you. That I feel like you are definitely a spiritual teacher. If you were willing to take that label, I don't know if you would take that, but yeah,
Thank
I'm
you.
really
It's
like
funny.
a
I just saw my
strong
friend
spiritual
Tiffany.
teacher because you're so strong in your spirituality, right? And it's just so that's you just can't help it but be teaching and be you are a spiritual teacher. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you.
But yeah, what were you
I'm
gonna
going to
say?
receive that and lean in. Oh, I was going to say my friend Tiffany. I just saw my friend Tiffany jump on, and she calls me a soul alchemist. So people like her and
Ooh,
you just
good word,
really,
Tiffany.
yeah, you guys are really
We're
like,
being
you're kind of like pulling it, like,
we're helping you
come
see
on,
it.
come on. Yeah. I'm still
That's like
stepping
we
into it.
started the
So
conversation, right? The power of who we're hanging out with. And I
yeah.
love speaking to Julia Cameron. Julia Cameron will talk about it like the people that we're with are like believing mirrors, right? So are the people that we're hanging out
Totally.
with can be like that mirror that's like believing like you're a spiritual teacher, Stacy, right? So you're a minister, you're a spiritual teacher, whether you like those words or not. What was it? Soul alchemist? Is that what Tiffany said?
Yeah. That's what she
Is that what
says.
that's a good,
Yeah.
that's actually even better, might as well come up with new words since those other words, yeah, maybe have a little, whatever reasons we have resistance to them. Maybe because of
It's
people who've
that
gone
judgment
before us who
piece.
took those roles and yeah. Yeah, and I like how Tiffany spells her name, by the way. That's pretty. All right. Well, anything else you want to say before maybe we could sign off, and we'll have a next time full of content?
I just want to thank you for just being you, and just praise you for your ability to step into also just connecting and collaborating and just sharing the wisdom that you have, and then allowing others to come into your space and do the same. And I just really am so inspired by you, really, and just how you live on a daily basis, your truth of who you are as a yogi, and really practicing the methods and really practicing, you know, everything it is to embody who you are. And so just keep doing it, keep stepping into it, because I see it and I feel it. And I just think you're on the cusp of this amazing explosion that's happening. And I really do, like, keep going through it, like keep passing through like where you're at, and really stepping into your ability to minister to really to people through who you are.
Right. Thank you.
So
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That's probably why I see those things in you, because I see those things in me more and more. Like, oh, I seem to be teaching about spirituality, and yeah, and perhaps at times I am minister like. So right. Yeah.
yeah, I think so too. I think you should give yourself way more credit than you do.
As part of
Start
that
pointing
word
the
thing, I
finger.
now do. I've
Yeah.
decided
Yeah.
to in this
Nice.
conversation.
Yeah. I
Oh,
have a
Carla's
feeling this is
here.
going to be I know, I saw that too. Hi, Carla. Yeah. Yeah, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I'm excited to look back at this conversation a year from now,
I know, right?
right? Because I guess some things happening, and I have a feeling you're going to be a part of them. So I'm
Yeah.
definitely excited to see where things are going. And now that you're like in your worthiness, like watch out, world,
Right.
because
Everything's
this
possible.
butterfly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Let's
fun play date. I love this. Let's do
super
another
fun.
play
Yes.
date.
Yeah, let's do it next week if you're up for it. So, yeah.
I might be. Yeah, I might be. We might have to make this a weekly thing.
I'm up for
Maybe.
weekly if you want, but nothing forced, but it's just that, and that a week, a lot happens in a week,
We
A
can
week
call it
can be full.
our vodcast.
Sure,
Like a
right?
podcast,
That's
but
what,
it's a
yeah, I just,
vodcast.
right? And it's just fun. And then I should be able to save it and put it on my YouTube just so it'll be there forever too. And I can give you a link to that. That's one of the
Perfect.
reasons I like the Facebook Live. So, okay.
Awesome. Well,
Awesome.
thank you.
Thanks so much, Stacy. Holy shit,
All
that was so
right.
fun. I love
It
you.
was fun. I love you. I love you. Okay. Have a good one,
Talk
my
to you
friend.
soon.
Okay.
Okay, bye.
Bye.